All right. So one thing we see with the sit-ins and the freedom rides is, first of all, it's getting a lot of national attention. Okay, but it's also bringing up some divisions and splintering and fracturing within the Black community, within the civil rights movement. All right. So you have a lot of it is really generational. The older generation versus the young people in terms of what they want to accomplish and how they want to, well, not really what they want to accomplish, but how they want to accomplish it, right? It's really a difference over methods. So the older people, especially say the Black middle class, the traditional leaders of the civil rights movement are people like pastors, preachers, church ladies, whatever. They tend to work with the NAACP. Okay, they tend to favor like not any kind of like big protests, no big demonstrations. Even something like the Montgomery bus boycott would be something the NAACP a lot of times is wary of, even though in Montgomery the NAACP leader had been supportive of it and organizing it. But what do they favor? The NAACP tends to favor working through the legal system, through the courts, to try to get favorable rulings from the courts. Now that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of patience, especially because once you get a favorable ruling, it's not something that is necessarily going to be enforced either. So there's a lot of patience required. It's very slow. And young people are tired of that. They want some change now. They're tired of living with this injustice. And they want to meet the more immediate change. And they want to be more active in how they challenge the evil of the society. Okay. Now, the older generation are looking at things like sit-ins and the freedom rides, and they're saying, okay, this is like a lot of people are involved in this. It's getting a lot of attention, but it's not. What is it really accomplishing? Is it really accomplishing anything? Because what happens when a bunch of these young people get arrested? Well, then we have to bail them out of jail, and like it's just costly to the community, right? Okay, so and nothing necessarily changes as a result of it. So, there's no calculable change. Maybe you'll get Robert Kennedy on to do something, but maybe you won't, right? So, okay, what happens in Macomb, Mississippi, is kind of an example of how there's these divisions emerging. So, Macomb, Mississippi, like other places in that state in 1961, had started arresting any demonstrators, right? So, there's a sit-in in Macomb, okay? And it's organized by the SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. The demonstrators get put in jail, and then when they get out, a lot of them are young people, they're trying to go back to school. The principal, that's an all-black school, the principal will not let them back in. I think the principal is a black guy. And this outrages the other students in the school. So they all a bunch of them get together, like over 100 of them, and they march down the streets of Macomb singing the civil rights anthem, "We Shall Overcome." And there's all these young people, yeah? And there's these whites that are gathering that are like, you can't believe what they're seeing, these young people who are taking this incredible risk, right? And there's with them this white activist from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, marching with them, the only white person marching with the students. He gets attacked by the crowd, the white crowd. Okay, and all these marchers, these young kids, some of them, I think the youngest ones are like early teenagers, right? So you're really dealing with a young group of people here. They get arrested, and then some of them are in jail for more than a month, okay? And when they get out of jail, they try to go back to the school. They all get expelled. All of them get expelled from the school, and the principal says he won't let them back in until they promise never to participate in these kind of demonstrations again. Okay, and so the parents are really upset, and not with the principal. They're upset, of course, that the kids got expelled, but they're upset that the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee would try to recruit people who are so young, right? And part of the problem is that, say the age of young people that would be most likely to participate, late teenage years, or late teens or 20s. Okay, a lot of them have already moved out of the South. They've gone into Chicago and New York. So when the activists come down, they have to try to recruit middle-aged people or young teenagers. Okay, and of course, parents don't want their children to go into dangerous situations. and they really are upset with these activists for trying to recruit their children to do something that it could so clearly not just result in going to jail, but result in real like murder from the white supremacists. Okay, and of course, violence does come into the community. So there was in Macomb earlier that summer other activists in 1961, the summer of 1961, and one of them had been driven around by Herbert Lee. And Herbert Lee is murdered, and he's murdered by a member of the Mississippi State politician. Okay, this guy E.H. Hearst. Okay, and there is a black man who witnesses it, but of course he's worried about getting killed. So he goes before the jury and says that Hearst killed Lee in self-defense. So Hearst is let off, and then this Lee guy thinks that he has hopefully saved himself, but then he gets murdered like a year later. So he's not safe either, and nobody ever gets charged for that murder. Okay. All right. So not only is there division, there's the retaliation of the white supremacists. That's a real threat, and that's going to cause these parents to be even more concerned about their children getting involved in demonstrations. Okay. But when you're getting into 1962, then you really start to see these divisions emerging within the movement. Martin Luther King Jr. is supportive of the direct action stuff. He's tried to implement it himself in Albany, Georgia, but really having nothing successful with it. And he's relying on Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP to bail him out of jail 3 times. And Thurgood Marshall's getting frustrated by all this. So by 1962, you really start to see this fracturing within the civil rights movement, especially between the young generation and the older generation of people. All right, good. All right. Have a good weekend.